It does not relate only to our business. And the simple illustration you've heard me use before, Corey, is either you bought Apple stock in 1984 or you did not. And you couldn't buy it in 1989 and make it like you bought it in 1984, right? Well, that's the same way that this is. This will be a great opportunity 3 years from now, but it will never again, ever be what it is at this second in time when literally the preliminary first immediate leadership structure is being created. There'll be those who join us a decade from now who can make it to the top, but they're going to have to work their way through a well-established leadership structure to get there. Right now, it is literally a vacuum. It is a literal vacuum of leadership that will draw you to the top if you allow yourself to be drawn to the top. It will require that you participate, that you contribute in that process. So I got involved in a company called Nu Skin all those years ago. I told you I'd take a trip down memory lane. And hello, Kay Taylor. You turned your mic, you turned your camera on, so now I can see it. And so I got involved with that company, and about a year and 7 months in, they were sued by the Federal Trade Commission. They were accused of becoming a pyramid, and they were not. They won that litigation. It was clear that they were not, but nevertheless, a suit was filed. But I didn't have the staying power. I couldn't wait for it to be right. I just couldn't wait. And then there are only a couple of people on this session right now who would remember what happened next. One of them is Jim Moyles, and one of them is my friend Kay Taylor. But what happened next was I had become very, very prominent in that company. My prominence was much, much larger than my results. They were racing along, but I had become very prominent in that company. And what that allowed me to do was have a whole bunch of people that I didn't know before I got to know in that period of time. And Jim, if you think back, what occurred was you've talked several times about the ability to assemble a leadership team that would equal what we assembled all those years ago. What happened? We had access to a group of people who had spent the last several months or the last year or two learning, preparing, getting ready, but they hadn't found the right mechanism. And then suddenly they found the right mechanism. And so what we did was we assembled a group of what I'd long described as pre-sifted leadership. What I want you all to know is that right now, you, whoever you are, you have a greater capacity today in this pre-launch environment to attract pre-sifted leadership than you will have 6 months from now. And Jim, the reason that we built the biggest leadership hierarchy of our careers was because we had access to this group of people who had been preparing for a period of time. And so as opposed to having to enroll people who were starting the process, we enrolled people who had been in the process, but had found themselves at a point in time where they had to shift gears. Okay. So right now, oops, Jim, your microphone's not on. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
This is the most compelling part of what I've heard today. This type of fireside chat. Can we record this? This is absolutely brilliant.
Oh, sure, of course.
And we can all resonate with this.
Yeah.
Recording in progress.
And so what happened was we had access to a group of people who had become enthused about a concept, but they had to shift gears. And so now, obviously, we can see the direct correlation. We all know a group of people who became involved in a concept, and that concept failed. And there's a whole lot of people literally starved and thirsty for opportunity right now, and we can provide solutions. So we have a chance to gather together a leadership group and a fraction of what would normally be the period of time. And in fact, Jim, you now know, we were there, we were able to assemble a pre-sifted leadership group. And in the 30 years since that time, we've not had that exact same possibility, right? You've had to learn and grow each one from the bottom up. And so the ability to access a pre-sifted leadership group is of enormous value. Every single participant in this company has that possibility. I'm hoping that you're all fully harvesting the value of that. And by the way, that possibility extends the entire network marketing industry right now, in my estimation, is like a sponge that has had no liquid put on it for a long time. The whole network marketing industry, it's a sponge, there's no liquid. And so many people have lost trust, confidence, and belief. In the days since COVID, people took off the mask, new leadership hierarchies haven't been being established. Now, what we have is this magic moment where this company, Nelo, has, for whatever reason, gathered the attention, the eyes from literally all over the world. And there are a variety of reasons, but eyes from all over the world. 1 hour ago, I was on a little private Zoom session and had one of the most influential people in the nation of Russia in network marketing on that session. Wanting to know, what is Neolife? What's going on? One of the most influential people in the nation of India. um, enormously successful people all around the world. They're saying, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Now, see, I want you all to know and understand that I'm not referring to this ability to attract pre-shifted leadership. I'm not referring to that as meaning that that the any company we were just involved with is our candidate pool. No, you see, what this has done is given me access to a candidate pool literally from around the world who never heard of the message that I've been involved with for the last 6 or 8 months. What it did is give me an opportunity to not just recycle, but to create a new candidate list that didn't exist. As recently as 6 weeks ago, my candidate list had 50 people on it. Today it has 50,000 people on it because it's Nilo Life. And so that's why I can't overstate it enough. So specifically, what have I been doing since the day that I said yes to this? And by the way, I couldn't say yes to this any day sooner than you all did. And we know that registrations are only now beginning to happen. But the day that I said yes to this was about 3 weeks ago. Now, I don't know what you've all done in that 3 week period, but I'll describe to you what I have been doing and what I'm doing in that period of time. First of all, while I dislike greatly the message, you can be first. Why do I dislike it? Because it becomes less true every day, right? You can be first. It's the worst message ever told in network marketing. It is also by far the most effective message ever told. People will make a decision based upon fear of loss that they will not make based upon anticipation of gain. When we're in the absolute very most startup launch phase, which is where we are right now, when we're in the startup launch phase, then and only then am I willing to shortcut some parts of what I consider to be a mandatory system. I'm going to draw that out for you for a second. Anyone who's been paying attention to the things that I teach for any period of time knows that I believe that there are a few columns here. If we just look at my whiteboard, the whiteboard has a few columns on it. And the first column on that whiteboard is what it is. So what is it? Well, now we know if you're on that last session, it's the product, the company, it's the timing, it's compensation plan, it's training and support, right? So that's the first column. These things have to be in place. The only part of that we are responsible for is this. We are not responsible to create the product, the service, the offering. That's what the company does. We are not the owners of the company. We are not management. That is what Nick and Larry and so on, that's their responsibility, not ours. Timing, I've described to you what I perceive about the timing of the venture, but what I now know is that the timing that really matters is not the timing of the venture. The timing that really matters is your timing. And Corey, again, I happen to be looking at your picture right now. So you and I have been talking for the last period of time. And you know what? The last 8 months was invested, not spent, because you've had experiences and learned things that make you more eligible to grab a hold of this. That's the truth. You're not starting at the same place you were 8 months ago. Our relationship is not starting at the same place it was 8 months ago. It's quite different. But everybody, if I could snap my fingers and get what's in my head to yours, if I could snap one more time and get what's in my heart to yours, then you would understand why I was on Zooms at 3 a.m. last night and why I was on a Zoom this morning early. It is because moments like this are rare, rare, rare moments. 1 second, I've got a rare moment. So hold on just 1 second. Yes. And so to give you an idea again, the moment. So earlier yesterday, I did a Zoom with one person in India who has 400,000 people in his group. He would not have responded to my message any time before 2 days ago, because 2 days ago it became the Nilo message. This is a gentleman I've not done business with for a decade. I've known him well, but he's not opened his eyes to a single possibility until just either 2 or 3 days ago, he opened his eyes to this possibility. Then did a launch Zoom for him yesterday. And the message that he just sent over to me was that his 35 most important people would like to do a Zoom later today. You see, what is that? That is an example of gathering together pre-shifted leadership. These are people who never saw or heard of the venture that I've been involved with for the last 8 months. So once again, understand when I talk about assembling a team of pre-shifted leadership, I'm not talking about going to that particular crowd of people that some of you have been associated with for the last 8 months and trying to reshake that tree. That would not be a winning course of action, in my opinion. If people in that group of tree reach out to you, that's different. But you should not be trying to pull people out of something that you were giving them hope for a very short period of time. Let that be their impetus, not your impetus. Okay. So this is the first column: products, company, timing, comp plan, training, and support. I always, of course, invite people to listen to what I say. of greater importance. Observe what I do. You can see what I'm doing right now. I'm working more hours than most human beings can. Why? Because I've learned in my life that it is at times like this when doing the massive amount of work is the only logical thing to do. The second column is a column where today I am willing to make a few shortcuts. Only a few shortcuts. Why? Because anything that slows the process down today is not something that we should do. And so all of you who have listened to my teaching and guidance for a long time know that I'm very methodical in what I do. The first rung on the ladder of escalation is when I invite a candidate to hear the message utilizing a properly constructed script to let a tool talk. After that, in a typical environment, I send another tool after they have a positive response to the first. After that, I then invite them to a home business review. And so typically, before I have the first legitimate business conversation, they've reviewed one link, said they want to know more. They've reviewed the second link, said they want to know more. Now I invite them to an in-person presentation. This doesn't have to take a long time. This, in fact, should be done in 48 hours. But you know what? I don't want somebody to wait 48 hours to decide right now if they can decide right now. And so for that reason, while I would typically not invite a person to hear a basic business presentation first, if this is a basic business presentation, I would not invite a person to have a basic business presentation in a typical environment if they've not done these things yet. Only when in a pure raw startup environment where the risk of not acting today is a tangible risk. That is a tangible risk that is greater than the possibility of the message being lost because these pragmatic steps were not followed. Only in a moment exactly like this moment would I skip past those stairs. But I am personally skipping past those stairs right now. The next rung on the ladder of escalation is a proper new member orientation. It will only be a matter of weeks, not months, before I am again basically insisting that we follow this entire pattern. Right now, the truth is that because the sands through the hourglass are slipping through literally on an hourly basis. Right now, it's not just like sands through the hourglass, there go the days of our lives. Right now, if I could snap my fingers and call you know like I do, right now, literally and truly, and no kidding, like sands through the hourglass, there go hours of our lives. And by the way, I can go back and I can attribute this almost absurd amount of money that I made in network marketing, now approaching $50 million. That absurd amount of money that I've earned in network marketing has come principally because of 4 separate moments of profound opportunity that I saw, that I recognized, and that I acted upon with a greater burst of energy than most people could imagine for a relatively short period of time. A relative short period of time of absolute crazy effort, followed by a 2 or 3 year period of maintenance, followed by multiple years of kind of hanging out. And hold on just 1 second. Okay, I've got somebody asking for this Zoom link. Just be patient with me 1 second. I apologize. Sorry about that. I am back. And by the way, this gentleman will join us in a second. This is the friend that I was just describing to you from Malaysia. And so why would I today be willing to skip these rungs on the ladder? Because this would take 3 or 4 days. That's not very long. But this gentleman is right now bringing his most important people onto this Zoom right now. And I only had my first conversation with him yesterday, day before yesterday, excuse me. And so you see, when the dynamics of the message are so powerful that it would cost someone money to force them to go through this process. I typically go through this process because this is a fail-safe. It's a hedge for me to make sure that the message is not lost. If a person comes way up here for the very first look, then they may not have had some of the preliminary information that would be necessary to be able to see this with their eyes properly opened. And so it's a process. Right now, the risk is greater of them not seeing it soon enough. That's a greater risk than them not seeing it with complete clarity because they didn't participate in the entire process. And you say, what do you mean, Randy, that they didn't see it soon enough? Well, what if somebody else had called my friend Shaw just 1 day sooner than I did? What if? You know what? That would be a great big loss for me. That would be a great big loss for me. And I would certainly not have any criticism at all had that person said, well, gosh, Randy, somebody else called me, I didn't look for you. Somebody else called me. And so I'm realizing that anybody that I know, literally anybody that I know that I want to have see this message, if I want them to see it, that means they're a person that somebody else would like them to see it also. And so I think I'm looking now, Jason Lehman, at your picture. This is a moment in time, Jason, when you don't want anybody to hear it from somebody else first, really and truly. I would rather they heard it from you, not as perfectly, and yet heard it from you, than I would that they heard it from somebody else because you were waiting to go through a process. And so I'll come back around in the very near future and say, Jason, let's not just be bringing people to look at a Zoom presentation if they've not first been to a home business review. And let's not have them come to a home business review unless they've already been through these other processes. But right now, my guidance, I'm talking to you, but I could be talking to anybody, is, and I'm looking right now at my friend UK, it is about giving enough people the chance to opt in or opt out as you possibly can right now. You are doing a favor for them. You are giving them a gift. There's nothing you could do that would be a better friend than to give them a chance to opt into this right now when they're in the earliest stages of this community build. Once again, I hate that you can be first message, but isn't it true that's a more powerful message than anything else I can tell you? You know, had I not contacted my friend Shaw first, somebody else would have, and the degree of possibilities that would have been lost by that are absolutely profound. And so the first column is what? It is what it is. It's the product, the company, the timing, the comp plan, the training and support. Those things are in place here. We are only responsible for this part of it, the training and support part. The ladder of escalation is what is designed and in fact required over time to not just bring people into the business who enter, but who become capable over time to develop large leadership groups. Remember that what we seek to build ultimately is this. And while people have made negative and incorrect statements about this for years, saying this pyramid shape is bad, no, it's not. Pyramid shape's absolutely wonderful. They've been standing for years in Egypt. If you build one of these, you can't knock it down. What I want to avoid is this. When we go all the way to the fifth rung first, we're building a business that looks more like this. We're building a business that is reliant upon someone else. See, Jason, if you are simply sending somebody to me to do a Zoom, or to Eric or Larry or Nick to do a Zoom, that's great, but that's not developing your skill, is it? When you and Laurie opened your home and invited people over and you did the presentation, that developed your skill. And so you see, we have to recognize that every single thing that we do in this business is either creating independence or it is creating self-reliance. If we are creating independence or dependence. If we are creating dependence, then Carol, there's not too far your business can go because there's not enough of you to go around. If, on the other hand, we engage people in a process which results in them becoming, then creates the greatest long-term outcome. What I'm telling you all today is that because of the power of the moment, I'm not just willing, but I am in fact skipping past rungs number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going right to rung number 5. I'm allowing first introduction to coincide with first presentation. Why? Because I'm finding that people are able to act on a presentation immediately, and they understand the power of the moment. Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll come back around and we'll then add structure to that. So now going back specifically and exactly, what do I believe that each of you should do right now? I'm not sure why exactly my whiteboard doesn't just erase. That's what I wanted to do. I'll do it this way. Eraser, erase the whole thing. So let's remember that even though some people in our world will not tell us so because it's somewhat private, let's assume that people who join us need to make money. Let's not assume that they don't need to make money because of the neighborhood that they live in or the car that they drive. Let's assume that people need to make money. Let's not take any shortcuts, but let's assume that they need to make money and that it would be a really good thing to get some income flowing for them right away. So the very first thing that I have done is I have simply contacted everybody that I know that is a person of goodwill and intent. And when I say I've contacted everybody now, I've been making a lot of contacts on a daily basis. And as I've made those contacts on a daily basis, this has been my question to those people that I've contacted. My question has been this: given that we are going to create a forced matrix structure, I want you all to understand what that means. In a forced matrix, it means that the next person that gets enrolled is going to be placed by the computer where the computer dictates. It is not going to be placed by you where you dictate. That is the nature of a forced matrix, a compensation plan. And so if this is you, then the first person that you enroll is going to go right here. The second person you enroll is going to go right here. But you're not exactly sure where the third person you enroll is going to go, because you see, you've got these two legs. Someone upline of you may well do this enrollment. That enrollment may already be done when you log into your account. You don't know. And so you don't know specifically and exactly where that next person is going to go. What I have been doing is contacting the best and the brightest and the strongest people that I know, telling them what I believe to be true. And what I believe to be true is this: perhaps the single best piece of real estate that you could possibly occupy in the land right now, if you want to equate our business to real estate, is being near the top of the structure of this particular company as it rolls out. I mean, I think that this is going to be highly, highly, highly sought after real estate. Why? Because I believe there's going to be an absolute complete flood of applications. And I think that there will be completely filled out matrices sometime in the next 6 to 9 months. I mean, I absolutely believe that that's going to happen. And if there's going to be 1 million people who enroll in this company in the next year, which I think there will be, and all of those people are going to be placed downline of someone who already enrolled in the company, well, then that simple act of where you are and when you got there winds up being pretty important. When I typically say, like sands through the hourglass, there go the days of our lives. That's why today's state, like sands through the hourglass, there go the hours of our lives. And in making each contact, I'm then posing that question. If Carol, I'm looking at Carol, if I was calling Carol, I would say, so Carol, here's the deal. What I want is to be absolutely certain that a person who enrolls down here relatively deep in the organization, they didn't get lucky to get involved the first day, the second day, the third, or the fourth. They're down here somewhere. And by the way, that could also happen in the first day. That can happen. It can go really fast. I want to make sure that they are benefiting from massive enrolling of people upline. So what is a mistake? And it's a mistake that I'm seeing people and hearing it happen all day, every day right now. I'm hearing people say, my gosh, just take your spot. Take your spot. Don't let this go away. Just take your spot. Well, Carol, if you enroll this person, just tell them, take your spot. And then they tell somebody, take your spot. And then they tell somebody, take your spot. Well, now you've got all these generations of people who just took a spot. And what are they contributing to the community build? Nothing. What they did was, quote, take a spot with the idea of taking from the community build. I'm not going to do a darn thing, but I'm going to take a spot. That is not the correct attitude and demeanor right now. And so if I'm contacting, and so my friend Shah Khan, I think, logged on here a minute ago. I haven't looked. But my message to Shah, my question was this: can you enroll 50 people in the first week? If you can enroll 50 people in the first week, then what I want to do is position you so close to me, so tight, so high in the organization that a lot of people down here benefit from it. So Carol, think about it. What if on what I call my 2 line, where I've just got one person on the right and the left, what if each one of those people committed to me, I'm going to enroll 50 people, Randy. I'm going to enroll 50, and I'm going to do that in the first week. So what if I've got 50 committed here and I've got 50 committed here? Well, that's going to benefit everybody else, isn't it? What if on my 4 line I have 4 people